It started on a Thursday, the kind of ordinary day that never warns you it's about to split your life in half. I was at my desk, sorting through a stack of mail that had been forwarded from our shared address. Client invoices, catalogs, a few bills. Then, an envelope from a letting agency I didn't recognize. My name's Leah, 34. I design other people's homes for a living. Make sure the light hits their lives just right. Inside the envelope was a tenancy agreement. Ethan's name. Our city. Different postcode. I checked the date. Signed 6 months ago. At first I thought it was a mistake. Maybe a rental for his company, a project, a sublet. But the details told another story. Rent, utilities, security deposit. All regular, all personal. Every box ticked, every signature neat. I thought I'd seen every kind of floor plan. Turns out I'd been living inside someone else's blueprint. I didn't confront him that night. I studied it like an architect studying cracks in a wall, knowing they mean something, just not ready to admit what. Because some houses don't collapse, they quietly split in two. He'd built himself a second life while I was busy furnishing the first. Ethan and I had been together 5 years, long enough to collect habits, short enough to still call it effort. He handled ambition. I handled aesthetics. He built properties. I made them beautiful. It was supposed to be the perfect symmetry, function and form, purpose and polish. Our apartment looked like something from a design magazine. White walls, soft oak accents, minimalist furniture, the kind of expensive quiet you can only achieve when no one's actually talking. We didn't argue. We delegated emotions the way you delegate chores. He handled optimism. I handled composure. He was always in meetings, always on site, always one phone call away from something more important than dinner. When people asked, I said we were both busy. That's what success looks like when you say it out loud. My work revolved around creating order, layouts, color palettes, symmetry. Things that made sense. His revolved around opportunity. Things that didn't need to make sense as long as they made money. I mistook his absence for drive. He called it balance. On weekends, he'd walk me through half-built show homes, explaining how light sells trust, how space can hide the truth. I used to love the way he talked about foundations. Solid, permanent, unshakable. Now I know. Foundations don't crack from pressure. They crack from repetition. I built us a home. He built an alibi. We met through work. Fitting, really. He was developing a boutique apartment complex downtown. I was hired to design the lobby. He noticed my precision before I noticed his charm. "You make concrete look graceful," he said during our first meeting, and somehow it didn't sound like flattery. I admired his decisiveness, the way he spoke about deadlines and details like they were promises. He made certainty look effortless, and I was drawn to that. The early years were intoxicating. Rooftop wine on summer nights, Sunday markets where he pretended to care about textures and tones. We spoke in plans and futures. Two people convinced they were building something worth keeping. He wasn't just a man. He was a project. And I'd always been good at finishing what I start. After 2 years, we moved in together. Marriage was next. We even picked a date once. But he said, "Let's wait until the next phase. Timing's everything." I believed him. Timing had always been our shared language. Once, over dinner, I joked about his long work hours. "Do you ever come home to your secret family?" He smiled, easy and practiced. "Only you." I laughed, touched his hand, didn't see the way his eyes stayed still while his mouth moved. I thought that smile meant reassurance. It meant rehearsal. I told myself I wasn't going there to spy, just to understand. The address from the lease sat in my bag for a week before curiosity turned into movement. One quiet afternoon between meetings, I drove across the city. Same skyline, different postcode. The street was neat, almost storybook perfect. Ivy climbed up brick walls, and every window reflected the same filtered sunlight. It looked like somewhere we might have lived, if I hadn't already been doing that elsewhere. When I parked across the road, my first thought wasn't suspicion. It was recognition. Through one of the ground floor windows, I saw our coffee table. Not similar, identical. The same walnut grain, the same narrow scratch I'd hidden under a tray last year. He hadn't hidden his lie in chaos. He'd duplicated it. Every detail, the rug pattern, the lamp style, mirrored our home, down to the plants I'd chosen. Then she appeared. Confidence. She locked the door behind her, phone in one hand, keys in the other. Early 30s, polished, purposeful. The kind of woman who doesn't trip over her own keys that matched Ethan's. I didn't follow her. I didn't call him. I just sat there, taking quiet inventory of pain. Detail by detail, design by design. But then came the voice, "Mrs. Clark, I thought you were away this week." The doorman. For a moment, the world tilted. My name isn't Clark. My heart stuttered, but my voice didn't. "Right," I said softly. "I just forgot something inside." He nodded, buzzed me in without hesitation. Inside, the air smelled like his cologne and lavender. His combination? Not mine. The apartment layout was nearly identical to ours. Same sectional sofa, same wall prints, same vase by the window. Every choice I'd made once for us, replicated here with surgical precision. I didn't touch anything. I just walked through it like a ghost touring the afterlife of her own home. In the kitchen, 2 mugs waited on the counter, hers in gold script, his in bold block letters. On the fridge, a photo. Ethan, same smile, same suit, different woman, different life. They looked right together, effortless in the way deception always is when it's still intact. I stood there long enough to memorize the scene, not to confront him, just to know where the truth lived when it wasn't at my address. Then I left quietly, closing the door behind me, because he hadn't been living 2 lives. He'd been copy-pasting mine. A week later, the mail came in a small stack. Bills, catalogs, the usual clutter of routine. But tucked in the middle was an envelope addressed to someone who didn't officially exist. Ethan Clark, tenant, apt to be. My chest went still. I recognized the alias, the address, the handwriting printed neatly by a machine. I opened it. "Mr. Clark, we regret to inform you of Mrs. Whitfield's passing. We understand you were her emergency contact. Please reach out to discuss her estate." It was formal, cold, final. The letterhead belonged to a law firm. The deceased, the other woman's mother. A stranger's letter, meant for his other life, had landed in mine. I called the firm pretending to be his assistant, my voice steady, my lie smoother than I expected. Within minutes, the receptionist said, "Oh yes, Mr. Clark's been in several times, helping his partner manage her mother's property." Such a kind man. A stranger's letter, meant for his other life, had landed in mine. I called the firm pretending to be his assistant, my voice steady, my lie smoother than I expected. Within minutes, the receptionist said, "Oh yes, Mr. Clark's been in several times, helping his partner manage her mother's property." Such a kind man. Kind, he'd been faithful to someone else's grief. That night, I made dinner. He came home late, loosened his tie, kissed the air near my cheek. "How was your day?" I asked. "Busy," he said. "Meetings, delays, the usual chaos. You?" I smiled. "About the same." He spoke like a man who'd rehearsed his lines so often, he'd forgotten which audience he was performing for. After he went to bed, I printed the obituary, folded it neatly, slid it into my wallet, a receipt for a life he'd lived without me. That's when I stopped crying. Grief belonged to her now. I just inherited the anger. I didn't leave him. Leaving would have been too simple, too merciful. Instead, I studied him. The way he moved, the cadence of his excuses, the rhythm of his disappearances. Every lie has a pattern if you're patient enough to trace it. Revenge, like design, needs structure. One night, I invited his brother, Aaron, over, said I needed help installing a new light fixture. He arrived with a bottle of wine and that familiar, easy smile, the one people wear when they think they're entering a safe house. We drank, talked about old holidays, about Ethan's stubborn streak, about how perfect we used to look from the outside. Aaron sighed. "I've always envied you too. You make it look easy." I leaned in, close enough for the lie to feel like truth. Then I kissed him. It wasn't passion. It was precision. A small act of architectural symmetry. If Ethan could live 2 lives, I could live 2 betrayals. A week later, I went to his uncle's office. The mentor, the man who taught Ethan how to build things that looked permanent. He was recently divorced. charming in the way men become when they think charm is currency. I stopped by under the pretense of discussing a renovation. We talked business, then grief, then loneliness. He called me fascinating. I called him family. It wasn't about desire, it was about proof. Afterward, I sent a polite thank you email and CC'd Ethan by mistake, a deliberate mistake. The next morning, silence. No confrontation, no storm, just absence. The quiet aftermath of understanding. He didn't mention the email, didn't ask who I'd met or why. He just came home late, set his keys down quietly, and sat beside me on the couch without speaking. That's the thing about liars. They can't afford to ask for the truth. They might have to tell theirs. We became equals again, just not in the way marriage vows meant. Weeks passed. We became polite strangers, two architects of different ruins. We shared space without sound, meals without appetite, nights without meaning. The only thing still connecting us was paperwork and habit. He started packing small things first: cufflinks, shoes, folders, no suitcases, just pieces of a life he was quietly dismantling. One morning, I found a lease termination notice on the counter. Both apartments, same end date. No note, no goodbye, just logistics, his preferred language. I drove to the second apartment later that week, the one that had mirrored mine. It was empty. No furniture, no scent, no trace of her. Just one photo left pinned to the fridge, the same picture I'd seen months ago. Ethan and the other woman, smiling. Same pose, different truth. I turned it over. On the back, his handwriting, for Leah, "When you're ready to forgive me." I laughed, a dry, soundless thing that hurt more than crying ever could. Forgiveness wasn't the blueprint anymore. It was demolition. Driving home, I stopped at a petrol station. The cashier, a boy barely old enough to understand permanence, asked, "Do you want a receipt?" I shook my head. No. Some things don't need proof anymore. That evening, another letter waited in my mailbox. The same law firm's logo. "Mrs. Clark," it began. "As executor of the Whitfield estate, please confirm receipt of settlement funds in your name." Settlement funds. My name. My business account. He'd transferred his mistress's inheritance to me. Whether it was guilt, closure, or insurance, I'll never know. He left me everything. The money, the title, the silence, everything but himself. My business thrived. Couples came in arguing about tiles and color palettes, asking me to design their forever homes. I smiled, nodded, made notes about lighting and space, as if I hadn't already learned what shadows do to trust. People think design is about beauty. It's not. It's about pretending walls keep things in. I kept the final letter in my drawer, the one that transferred her inheritance into my account. Not for the money, for the irony. He gave me what was hers, and I took it. Not as revenge, as inheritance. He was cheating on me the whole time. I found a second apartment lease in his name and realized he enjoyed living two lives. Parallel. Perfect. Pointless. I don't see Aaron anymore, or his uncle. Some acts of war aren't meant to be repeated. Now, when I walk through empty properties, I can tell which ones were left in a hurry. The air remembers. One afternoon, sunlight hit a cracked mirror just right. The reflection split my face into two halves. For a moment, I understood him. I used to build homes. Now I build stories around the ruins. The trick is pretending you don't still live inside them,